All right. You ready?
I guess so. I don't have any other option.
All right. Ba, ba, ba.
Don't wake the baby.
Okay. Welcome to this episode of Small Town Expectations. We're doing a little something different tonight. It's different for a lot of reasons. But before we get into that, we want to thank you for being here with us on this funny little podcast. And also remind you, oh my gosh, you haven't even introduced yourself.
I was waiting to see if you'd notice.
Oh, can we start all over?
I guess.
All right.
No one's watching the live anyway. Don't matter. No one even noticed that we didn't post an episode last night or yesterday.
Nobody actually cares. Do they?
I don't think so.
Doubtful.
It's alright.
That's so fine. All right, ready? Welcome to this episode of Small Town Expectations. My name is Brandy Rose, here with my wonderful partner, Hales Bassing.
Hey, hey.
We want to thank you for tuning into this fun little podcast where we get to hang out and tell stories about people growing up in a small town or living in a small town or whatever. And tonight we are doing a few things different. We're going live on Facebook, which is kind of awkward and weird for us.
We're not good at live.
No.
We're not theater, we're film.
That's right. We are really good at editing stuff down. Mostly because I get really, weird and nervous, and I record and re-record and record and re-record, and then Haley does her magic.
Usually.
Makes it happen.
If you listen to the spooky episode, I didn't cut out where Alex restarts recording.
There sometimes are some mess-ups, but whatever, right? NBG, no big deal.
To show how many people actually listen.
Whenever only one person is like, hey, did you know? And we're like, ah.
And it's the person that recorded it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That's okay.
We
appreciate our fan base.
That's true, we do. We love them. We want to remind you to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter and... No, not on Twitter. See, this is the problem with going live.
I don't tweet.
We want to remind you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the two places that we are the most represented, maybe, I guess.
But don't forget, we're on Spotify.
We are on Spotify now.
Otherwise, anybody under the age of 25 wouldn't listen to us.
It's true. Haley did learn that this year.
My students can vouch for it.
Yep. So there's lots of platforms that you can listen to this podcast on. Spotify is one of them. Apple, iTunes, anywhere that you get your podcast, you can literally just search Small Town Expectations and find it there. So if you are recommending this podcast to a person, that's how you make it happen. Or you can follow us on radbrandy.com. That's where we post lots of different kinds of photos, and we kind of keep you up to date on radbrandy.com with just the episodes.
What photos are we gonna post for this?
I don't know. We'll figure something fun out. We'll post the live video that we're doing.
And that's it?
And the unedited version of it. I know, it's getting serious. But obviously you recognize that we don't have a guest today. And that's okay. Normally, during this time, we would highlight a community that sort of reflects that guest story and draws to some of the things that they may talk about. But today, or yesterday, was whenever we were really supposed to be posting this episode. We obviously didn't make that happen. And there's a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is that our guest was just super busy and there wasn't really, anything he could do about that.
Sure. And
so we rolled with it, and that's just what happened. We are going to record with him probably sometime this week or next week.
Hopefully.
We haven't really nailed anything down, but I think he is genuinely excited to come on and tell his story. He has a great story, and
and in 2 weeks he has a show going up at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll be able to segue into that.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And we're not going to tell you who it is, so that you'll listen to find out.
We have some people watching.
We do.
That's cool.
Yeah. But we do want to just highlight a couple of things that I think are happening in Haley and I's life, and it's just crazy. It's just busy. Haley has started this new gig at the high school, And that has changed a lot for you in general, just a lot of, who you are and what you're doing day to day.
My identity.
Kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like, and people who have been listening to this podcast since the beginning may have recognized that there's a lot of theater people, because that's just who our connections are to and with, as theater folks. And I've never thought that was good or bad, and I've always really enjoyed getting to know folks from the theater community. And that's just because that's who you were the most connected to.
Yeah.
And, things have evolved, and now we are drawing closer to folks in the film community, because that's who you are and that's what you do.
Which, the cool part about Farmington is there's a pretty big, the two circles intertwine each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a pretty big pool in both of them that everybody is included in some way, or they know somebody, or they've acted for this, or they've teched for this, that, those two fields go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure.
Which makes that less scary, transitioning over from theater to film in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think that illustration of like the two circles intersecting, I think, is a really special place that you sort of get to say you're in,
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that's really neat for you. And it's been helpful for you, because let's just be really authentic here. There was some scary days and some days I think that were really tough to grasp.
Sure.
Agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's because of that loss of identity.
Yeah.
And I think that every person, no matter who you are or what you're involved in or what you do, I think that we all have a little piece of our identity that sometimes gets chipped away at, and we freak out.
Yeah.
And
change is scary.
And when we start to question our identity or question who we are, like that can be really scary. But I think that we have to remind ourselves that there's something kind of refreshing about that at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was actually, my sub this morning, we were talking about it, and I was telling her how different it was, because I only have one theater kid out of my 126 students that I see every day. And so it was like, I was forced to meet strangers.
Yeah.
And as that, I was explaining to her that it was scary, she was explaining to me, and she's like, you get a fresh start with these kids. They don't know you one way or the other, so you could be any way you want to be and create those boundaries that maybe you wanted to create different ones in theater, and that relationship is different.
Sure.
And that's cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And so I think that the community that we want to highlight this week is the community of your identity. I don't know. How do we roll that out to folks to participate?
What do you mean? To get people on the show?
No. Like, to just, because you know how we always are like, let's highlight, fill in the blank. And then folks talk about that experience and, send us fun little stories about it. Well, but I think, like, I just recently started the teen support group. Not started it, but have, recently taken the position of the facilitator of that group. The other facilitator is having a baby, and she's moving out of the state, and so they needed somebody to take that role, and I'm kind of excited about it. I get to sort of glean some of the things that I learned from youth ministry days. It's not youth ministry at all, but I get to hang out with teenagers, and I get to encourage them, and I get to support them, and I get to sit with them while they support each other. Really, is what that group is more about. Is about them supporting each other, and I think that has played a key, part in just the last 2 months or so of my identity, because it's bringing back something that I loved so much and sort of moved quickly away from because of circumstances. And so it gets to bring back that little piece of my identity of being an encourager in teenagers' lives again. Yeah.
Well, and you've been able to do that too through, you were the color guard coach this year.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. That's another little thing. coaching again, like bringing back that little piece of who I was a long time ago again, and I get to coach again.
You were a band nerd.
I was, but also just being a coach, whether it's like cheerleading or dance or whatever, or gymnastics, like whatever it was that I was coaching at the time, I was the coach of the coaches, you know, or whatever. That was a huge part of my identity during those times. And now I get to like glean from all of those little things that I have been able to be a part of and continue again on those little journeys, you know?
Yep.
And so I think the point I'm trying to make is that like each person has something that they get really nervous about because their identity starts to look a little bit different. Your theater to film. Or in my case, recently, I've gotten to sort of just look back on some stuff that I used to be really, really huge in my life. And just for different circumstances, I, kind of journeyed away from them. But now the journey is back, and that's really cool, and I'm pretty excited about it. So,
well, and we're getting older.
Yeah.
So our priorities change, and we're growing as humans, and that looks different. What I wanted 5 years ago isn't what I want today. And previous to that, 5 years ago, from that,
goodness, right?
I was living for one thing, necessarily.
Yeah.
And now we're taking care of a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know that, but...
I was going to say, do we say that on here?
We have. I mean, we've mentioned
That's
it.
true, yeah. And I think that's changed a lot of who we are, too. Oh my gosh, that's changed huge of who we are and how we function in the world.
Yeah.
It's
priorities.
Crazy. Yeah. So, I'm encouraging people who are either watching and just so if folks are just listening to the podcast, we are going live now, and people are commenting at how proud they are of Haley and taking on this new role and her new position. And I agree. I'm proud of her too. I think it's really neat, and it was scary for her, and I really am very proud of you. So,
it's cool. I hope the kids like it. I hope some kids come back.
And if they don't, then you get a new batch until you find some kids who are passionate about it. That's just kind of how teaching is,
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. So if you're listening to the podcast or you're on Facebook Live watching, we want to encourage you to sort of think back on some of your identity and who you are, and maybe things that have kind of come full circle and you're getting to participate in again, and you get to sort of reflect on and take that experience to be an even better coach or an even better fill in the blank. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know. You can let us know on Facebook. You can let us know on Instagram, or you can always email us at smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com.
He didn't mess it up.
I know.
We're live. We can't fix it.
So there are lots of ways that you can let us know. Tell us your stories, because we want to share those with other people. And I think we might keep doing this live stuff. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what y'all think of it. Okay?
We have a 2-year-old, so it'll be after bedtime.
That's right. It'll always be at about 8:30ish. That's when we can really guarantee that she's sleeping.
And hopefully we're done being sick and our allergies have passed and all of the achiness that's going
That's
through.
true. Because on live, y'all can see that we are hacking our heads off. But when you listen to the podcast, Haley is such a genius at this editing stuff, and she works her magic. She takes most of those coughs out, unless I'm a knucklehead and I cough over somebody talking or something, and she's like, Brandy, you can't cough when they're talking, or Brandy, stop talking when you're coughing.
It's true, that's what I sound like.
It is.
But we have the dog and chewing up.
I'm sorry, talking about coughing made me need to cough.
The dogs are chewing up a Frisbee right now. The heater just kicked on. Go amateur or go home.
That's right. I mean, we're literally recording in our home. So, whatever, people.
It's our home,
It's fine. It's fine.
Our home is home.
Our home is home. So, this week, we weren't able to post that episode yesterday, and we for a second, we're pretty stressed out about it. Not gonna lie. Because we want to be consistent, and we want to be giving you stuff every other week. And then there was just a moment where we both just kind of threw our hands up, and we were like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
all right that we didn't post an episode today. And so then we had this good idea of just Haley and I, and just doing an episode together and talking about just some things that we think are cool. And then we waited for our little peanut to go to sleep. And then we just decided that drinking tea and sitting next to each other was way better than getting on a podcast. And so that's what happened.
Yeah.
So we didn't even record last night. So tonight we got her to sleep, and then we said, okay, like, are you really ready to record? And so, yeah, we're making that happen now. So if that was something, if you're just sitting on the edge of your seats waiting for us to release episodes every other Sunday, we want to genuinely apologize for that, because, that is sort of an unfortunate circumstance of what we're doing. But what we want to bring to you is just some of the things that just sort of maybe inspire us.
Yeah, I think I would consider this podcast that we're content creators.
Okay.
We wake up every morning, we make content, right? I mean, that's
every
part
other
of this,
Sunday.
this art form that we enjoy together, that we do together.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to talk about some things, because you consume very different content than I consume just on a daily basis. Like, you're up at 5 a.m. scrolling your Twitter, and you have an idea of what's going on in the world, and I don't,
Yeah.
And just the stuff you listen to at work and the YouTube videos that we watch are very different.
Mm-hmm.
But usually we're able to sit and listen together, or watch together, or on a road trip we listen together, or we listen separately and then come back and talk about, did you listen to that episode?
Yeah, for sure.
I think if we ever do another Facebook Live, we need to get Small Town Expectations printed.
Oh, absolutely. If anybody wants to make that happen, my birthday's coming up.
And Christmas.
Well, Christmas, shmish, whatever. But my birthday, let's be honest, okay? Yeah, and so some of those things that inspire us, or that we are able to say we look to, is different YouTube people that we want to talk about.
And podcasts.
Yeah. This American Life. So Maddie is named after Rachel Maddow. She's a news anchor woman from
Maddie's our dog.
MSNBC. Maddie is our dog. She's the little puppy. That's like will be a year in February. She's not even almost a year old.
Ellen dog will be 2 in December.
That's true. Ellen is named after Ellen is named after Ellen DeGeneres.
Yep.
Obviously, big fans. Okay. And then, of course, Maddie is named after Rachel Maddow. And where was I going with that? Oh, but whenever we got Maddie, one of our favorite podcasts is Small Town Expectations. But also one of our favorite podcasts is This American Life. And it's a Chicago-based radio show. And the host of that show is Ira Glass. And we recently just saw a picture of Ira Glass, and Ira is an old man. We didn't realize he was,
His voice doesn't sound that old.
No. But I think Ira's, like, the funniest dude. Like, I think the end of that show, the end of those episodes are always some of my favorite, and I'm like, Ira's gonna say his funny thing, and I make everybody be quiet just so I can hear that little piece of Ira goodness, and I will laugh like crazy.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so funny, and it doesn't matter how stupid it is. I always think it's hilarious.
It's usually pretty silly.
It is, but it's just something that I always look forward to. So my goodness, This American Life is just a fun podcast that covers lots of different topics, and sometimes these episodes make us cry, and sometimes we cheer, with the folks who they're talking to, and sometimes it inspires us to go and watch a Netflix show.
This American Life is really cool because it's been on longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
And before podcasting was even a thing, they were a radio show out of Chicago. Like, where better a place and a time than, I don't even know when it started.
That's a good point, because sometimes they rebroadcast old episodes. They kind of, they spin them to be relevant, and they take old episodes that sort of reflect on maybe some current events that are happening.
Yeah.
Or, you know, something, an anniversary or something like that. And I think I appreciate the art in that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think it's, I love that show.
It's just put together well. And
yeah.
The company or the whatever you want to call it that puts it together, they've been doing it since, I feel like, the beginning of time. You know, they've evolved with that, and they evolved it into their podcast, and they made it work. And then they have these live shows that is produced so good. You know, we listen to it so frequently that we're able to analyze the, like, dang, did you notice that background music played for this amount of time before they went into that next thing? Like, whose choice was that? Why did they make that choice? And it got our attention. Yeah. Or sometimes you don't notice it, you know. Yeah. And it's really neat when they're like, our recording cut out and this is what happened. Or, you know what I mean? Like, they're explaining that almost like behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. This American Life is close to me because Jen Caliendo, who we had on the podcast, I don't know, probably about a year ago. Yeah. She's the one that got me on there. She sent me a link one day and showed it to me on the Apple Podcasts app or whatever. And so, like, anytime I click on that, I'm like, Jen listens to this. So that's something that bonds us. And then our buddy Dave, he was like, hells, I've been listening to this before podcasts even existed. Right. You know, like, this is what I did every Saturday morning. And so that's cool. Because that's something that's there. And it connects us. I love radio. You know?
Oh, me too. That's really what inspired all of this was days at radio. And you're just good at editing, so that I think that came really natural to you. Yeah. So,
what else did I want to say about This American Life? It's put together well, but have you ever been on their website? No. You should go to it.
Really?
It's really cool.
See those coughs? They'll get cut out. Will they?
No, we're live.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be the easiest edited episode, because I'm not going to edit it. I'm going to slap the voice effect on it.
All right.
But their website is cool, because how it breaks it up into, like, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 within an episode, because they're like, here's a theme of our episode, and then here's like 4 or 5 different stories that go along with it. Yeah. So that's all broken down. They have the whole thing transcripted. So, say you're an old fogey and you like to read more than you would like to listen, it has all of that.
But also, they have such a good log that they're able to go and grab something from a decade ago. Yeah. Because they've kept such good record. Do you know? Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
It is. I really love that show. So we're going to recommend This American Life to people who love to hear stories, and to people who want to add another podcast to their list.
And you can listen on the app, and you can listen on their website, and you could go on their website on your device and download the This American Life app. Yes. Rather than just your podcast app. And you can download stuff on there, so then you can listen whenever you don't have internet connection. Sure. Go on a road trip. Yeah. Or my classroom.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. That's cool.
That is cool.
Another podcast that we oftentimes are... I think this one might be... This is usually us, but sometimes more me than you, is Deck Shepherd, Armchair Expert. He kind of makes Haley crazy. But he kind of makes me crazy too sometimes. But I don't know, I like the way that he interviews, I think, is why I like Deck Shepherd so much. And I really love Monica Padman. I think that she is adorable, and I think I would want to be her friend. I just don't think she would like me very much.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that I would annoy her. No. You don't think so?
Deck Shepherd is her boss and one of her best friends. I don't see how that...
I don't know. But I think that Deck Shepherd, I think there is... he does a really good job at interviewing people. Yeah. And about relating to the topics that they're talking about.
The part about that show, or his show, that makes me crazy, I guess you would say, is that I don't feel like any of it is his choice. The guests that he gets on there aren't his choice.
No, that's fair.
He's like, he'll get him in there and ask him some arbitrary question that he has no follow-up or any knowledge to because he doesn't know who that person is. And not always, because a lot of times these celebrities are his friends.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, well, and I would say that they do some research, like Dog the Bounty Hunter. He didn't know Dog the Bounty, he didn't know Dog, he didn't know, anything about him until he did some research and figured out who he was. And I believe him when he says this, he says that's been one of his favorite people to sit in his studio.
Yeah.
Was, Dog the Bounty Hunter. And that was that episode actually made me cry a couple of times. Because Linda, I'm pretty sure that was his wife's name. She passed away a year or so ago. And I remember when she died and I was like, oh, that is so sad.
Yeah.
And, because when I was younger, my mom and my baby sister, Alex, I would go over to see them at their house, or I would go to my parents' house, or whatever. And my mom would have on Dog the Bounty Hunter.
How funny.
Every once in a while.
I've never watched it.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's weird reality TV. But for them to talk about the first episode that ever aired and kind of the stuff that went on behind the scenes was interesting, because you think that they know all of the things that are happening, and they sort of felt betrayed, because they kept rolling while they were taping and filming, while they were kind of consoling maybe somebody that they were actually arresting, and they were like, that's our reputation, we're never gonna get another job, and blah blah blah, and people literally gave them a standing ovation, and they were just like, okay, I guess we're going to keep doing this. And Linda was really this, beautiful soul that would come in and encourage women who were on drugs or, just that they could make better choices for their life. And it was always these really touching moments with her. And so when she died, I don't know,
What's the premise of the show?
I always get really sad. So it's like a show on, I think they're on A&E. They might be on TLC, I can't remember.
Sure.
Yeah, one of those two. Anyways, I'm probably totally wrong. I don't know what
we need
network they're on. I know. Where's our fact checker? Jack Shepard. Monica, get to it. Please,
do you think she does it? Or do you think somebody else does
Oh,
it?
absolutely. I think she goes through and listens to those episodes. And she definitely fact checks.
You don't think there's people on her team?
No, I think it's Wobby Wob. I think Wobby Wob probably goes and fact checks. Because while they're doing the fact check, Wobby Wob is fact checking their facts. So, it's probably Wobby Wob. And we just never hear from him. Now y'all gotta go listen to Armchair Experts so you know who these people are.
His podcast is really good, though.
Okay, so Dog the Bounty Hunter. Sorry. They're bounty hunters, and so they're basically getting paid to go and find people who have warrants out for their arrest. And they're just really good at their job. And so they would go and tackle these people and hunt them down, and people
just
who are
warrants, though. They're not
oh no, they're
killers.
No, they're wanted for serious stuff, and they're able to track them down and find them. I don't know.
It's cool.
It was pretty cool. It was a good show.
Is that staged?
Right. I don't know. I don't know.
TV.
Whenever he was on Armchair Expert, he said that it wasn't staged.
It's cool.
He said it was all real. So, I knew a girl who was on, super, super sweet lady. Her name was, she's younger than me. Her name's Katie.
She could still be a lady.
Katie Ball. She was on this Texas show called American Hoggers, and all of it was staged. She was like, oh yeah, we reshot that scene 3 times, or they would tell me, oh, we actually want you to do this, blah 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 blah, and she's like, not giving us all the secrets, but she's like, oh yeah, we shot that chase down 4 times or whatever, because they just couldn't, the lighting was wrong, or blah 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 blah. And so that gave me a whole different perspective on live TV. Oh, A&E, look, our fact checker Brenda Ferry. The beauty of going live. Thank you, Brenda. Brenda says that Dog the Bounty Hunter was on A&E. I knew it was on A&E. But Katie Ball, she told me that there was a lot of times where it just wasn't reality TV. It was them, the producers, sort of fabricating some stuff, of course, that kind of thing. But the way he talks about it on that podcast was like, it's all real, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Remember we listened to This American Life talk about those live PD shows?
Oh, that made me so mad. And then we saw an ad.
Like
that
a week later.
Yeah,
oh, maybe not.
It was like a month later.
I think it was longer than that.
Okay, so are you ready for this little fun story? We listened to This American Life. They talk about live PD, and it makes us mad. And we're just like, how do you do that to people? Like, you are horrible human beings. And then, like a month or so later, we see an ad that Live PD is filming in Farmington because San Juan County Sheriff's Department is filming. And then the next day, I get told by my family that my brother's going to be on that show. I was so mad. I was crying. I was
Did anyone ever watch?
Mad. Yeah, well, I mean, they keep airing them like every week. My brother hasn't been on yet, and so apparently they didn't get enough consent forms signed, I think is really what happened.
Maybe
because
the lighting was bad.
Maybe the lighting. No, market. They chased him down and pulled him out of an attic. I feel like that is good enough TV that my family should have been like humiliated on TV.
Maybe the lens cap was on the camera.
I hope that's what the problem was, and I hope that someday, like, because now I've been seeing like all these people in this area, like, taking videos of them watching live PD and are like, ha ha ha, I used to know that guy, or ha ha ha, like, the finest of Farmington. And I'm like, oh dear God, like, my brother is going to be on the show and it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful. I was so upset.
I know.
So anyways, live PD.
Podcast.
So we also watch a lot of YouTubers. We subscribe, and I love watching YouTube. I get sucked into a K-hole of weird videos. Like, weird stuff. And sometimes I'm like, Haley, did you see this one? And she's like, how did you even find that? And it's either that I saw somebody post about it on Twitter, or I'm just like literally scrolling. This morning, Haley was watching some weird Facebook videos. I think it was this morning. And I was like, oh, I've seen this one. And you're like, how have you seen this? I'm like, it was in a different compilation.
Like an hour ago, you showed me the baby getting caught in the, what is it, the foosball?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Snowball?
Yeah.
Is that what it's
he
called?
crawls up the skee ball, and he gets stuck in the glass part of the skee ball thing.
And you showed me that one last night.
And then I showed it to you again today. Because I was like, have you seen this? It's so good. So anyways, we watch YouTube videos. And one of my favorite YouTubers right now are my content creators, is a couple called Threadbanger. And we've been watching Threadbanger. I've been watching Threadbanger for a little more than a year. And it was because I caught this like weird baking bug. And this was for my birthday, I think, like, was it last year or 2 years ago that I made that cake? Oh, so like a year ago was, I think, probably how we found them, because I was like, I want to make a rainbow cake. And so we looked up how to do it, and I was watching YouTube videos, and so I run into these content creators called Threadbanger, and they do something called Corinne vs. Pin, or Man vs. Pin, or whatever. And it's really them going against like something that they've seen on Pinterest. And I just kind of fell in love with this couple, and it's nonsense.
It was love-hate at first, because their content is cool, but then they're really like crude.
They're super crude.
Because then they're dropping F-bombs all the time, and then their like transitions or their middle fingers in and out of frames. And
I don't mind that kind of stuff. Haley's like, I can't handle this. Especially when they're like, and maybe this is, I don't know what this means, but sometimes like I don't even hear when people are saying the F word. Like, it's just.
I wish. I work in high school.
I don't know. I just don't notice.
Get fired.
I don't notice. And I think I do notice, like, after a while, I guess, if I just try to make myself more aware. But it's really easy for me to just.
I'm a Cancer.
Like,
I feel like those middle fingers were at me.
Yeah.
And that's not my style.
Yeah. So, I just really kind of fell in love with them. And I started watching their videos a lot. And Haley, one day I remember I was really, really sick. And Haley's like, let's turn on Threadfinger. And so we started watching, so Haley just turned on, and I just watched, I don't know, probably like 3 hours of these YouTube videos. And it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. I watched them landscape their backyard once. It was weird, and it inspired me to landscape our backyard and actually pay somebody. So we need to find some money somewhere so that we can pay somebody to landscape our backyard. Like Threadfinger. I just want to be like them. And then recently they named...
I'm cooler than Rob.
All right, that's probably true. But recently, Rob from this group, he got super sick and he actually almost died.
He did die.
He did die. You're right.
He brought him back.
He died for a couple of minutes. And I pulled up what he had because it's weird. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's irrelevant at this point. Anyways, he almost died, and that actually shot their viewers up.
Well, they didn't post for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And
people, like, literally, whenever I was Googling what was wrong with him, people are like, what happened to Threadfinger? Like, why did they stop posting videos? You know, la la la, whatever. And it was because Rob was so sick.
Yeah.
And so now, because of that, they have a deal with the Travel Channel.
Yep.
And they're getting paid to travel all over the world and make vlogs.
It's pretty cool.
That's all that they do is vlog their day.
Their story's pretty cool, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they're content creators. So their 9 to 5 is at home doing these challenges or creating these videos, whatever that means for them.
Yeah.
And they have all kinds of equipment, and, you know, they spend hours editing.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to see it. But it's put together very well.
Yeah,
They have their little animations, and their characters are very strong. Rob is like that dumb guy who thinks he can do everything, but really he's just a representation of man and is lazy and half does everything.
That's true.
And has never come out as good as hers, where she's real particular and follows the directions, and she's organic. And so that motivates you to be like her. But at the same time, she's dark, and she loves Halloween, and she always has crazy hair and real distinctive makeup choices.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I like them. I think they're cool.
I like them too.
Yeah.
I had them on today whenever you were cooking.
Yeah, that's true. So, Haley, though, has been inspired, and I think it's where her hobby for the last, I don't know, probably like year and a half or so.
Right at a year.
Really? Yeah, it was right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this guy's really cool. So, I don't want to talk about your favorite. You talk about your favorite.
I feel like we've talked about him before. My guy on YouTube is Steve Ramsey, and he has Woodworking for Mere Mortals. And I feel like he's really what accelerated my hobby into woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
That has since slowed because our lifestyle has changed. But I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving break to have time to work my wood.
Yeah. She makes really, really cool stuff. And usually it's with the instruction and direction from this guy. So if you... And what's really neat is that I can watch this because I just like to watch him make stuff.
So, one of the cool things that Steve has that allowed me to get hooked so easily is he's been making content almost since YouTube was born.
Mm-hmm.
So his channel started back in 2008, and he has a video that explains all of it. And he has a video that explains how YouTube has changed in the last 10 years. Last year, he posted that, you know. And so he's been through all of it, and he talks about it and what it was like to be what they call now a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really cool because he's like, I shoot with one camera. I have a GoPro that I use every now and then when I'm feeling wily. On camera mic, like he doesn't do anything fancy. He has relatively cheap editing software, but his whole aim is that how he affected me is that any Joe Schmo, any mere mortal can be a woodworker, you know, and he's like, let me break it down for you and show you how to do this on a budget, in a tight space. Anybody could do it if you have the knowledge. Here's the know-how, you know. So he's able to explain all of that.
Yeah. I think it's cool. And I think that what's really neat about Steve is that he is making content for just normal Joe Schmo people.
Yeah.
And that's something that inspired Haley so much. And y'all, like, whenever you see your person get genuinely happy over something that they're good at, I think that, I mean, that's a win in my book.
he's
That's
just
so-
cool too
that's so
because
cheesy.
I don't know, the way he explains it, the way he sees the world, and I think really what allows us to love these content makers is that we have an emotional connection to them. We noticed when Threadbringer stopped posting.
Yeah.
We both sat there for the 40-minute video of
And cried.
and explaining what had happened to Rob and showed all these clips of him being in the hospital for months and all of it.
Yeah.
We had that emotional connection. And then Steve goes through how he had cancer. He got skin cancer and how that changed his life. And he almost died. And then he started running, and now he's like this runner, and he stopped drinking alcohol. So that's something that throws that one more into my world of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's slowed in making his content because he's like, I'm done with sponsorships. They're controlling my video content too much. I'm going to try to do without. And he found another way to make income, which is doing his woodworking videos.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for? But at the same time, one of the things that accelerated us watching his videos were his microjig ads that he had at the beginning of every one of his videos.
I laughed at every single one of them. And Haley'd be like, you're so weird, Brady.
They were perfect, though.
Yeah.
He grabbed that back in its time whenever he was allowed to have freedom in his advertisements and did it.
Yeah.
And he's a video maker. A filmmaker, I guess. The first video I ever clicked on his was to make a wooden doormat. That's how I even found Steve. And it's this poorly edited, not necessarily poorly edited, but the film quality was back from 2008, where he's one actor and he's the next actor, and he makes fun of himself because he's like, you're not even going to change clothes to be the other guy?
Also, you still have never made that doormat.
No.
Why?
I don't know. We don't need a doormat, do we?
No, I guess not. Sorry. I was wanted to make that point. So those are a few of our favorite content makers.
Check back in for what Brandy gets for Christmas this year.
It better be a wooden doormat. Just saying.
Just a doorman.
So we definitely have our favorite go-tos, and I think that there's more too. Yeah. I think that there's more that we could talk about. Did we?
Yeah. Remember I said Dave's been listening to This American Life since before I was born?
We did. Dave, you missed it. Sorry, buddy. So the point that I'm trying to make is that you have your favorites too, and hopefully they're videos and they're content makers and they're people that inspire you to either be a better person. Maybe it's just an escape and it makes you laugh. Maybe it's something that it's taught you something. But ultimately we go to these things, right, so that we can, I don't know.
Like Bobby Bones.
Yeah.
I listen to him every morning on the way to work.
Bobby Bones is a good one too. I agree.
And he has the Bobby cast. He does a lot. Like, his whole life is content making, whether he realizes it or not.
Yeah. So we want to, normally we would say, if you want to be on this podcast, let us know and we're going to make that happen. But now I think that we've gotten to a point where the people have stopped coming to us.
Clearly.
Obviously. And so we want to reach out to you all and say you have people that have inspired you and that have taught you something or have lived a life that is creative or
anything. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Literally anything. Let us know who that person is. I will reach out to them. Haley will reach out to them, and we will make sure that that person has an opportunity to come onto this podcast. And remember, because it can be weird for people to come to our house, and we don't want to make it weird, people. So if we need to call somebody on the phone, if we need to meet somebody in another space, we are 100% willing and opening to make those things happen.
Our microphone is mobile.
It is mobile. So let us know who you want on the podcast. And there's one person in particular that I need to reach out to because she did express interest to me probably a month or so, even more than a month ago. And then stuff just got crazy, and I just have let that one kind of slip away.
Wow.
So I'm going to make sure that I reach out to that person. I'm saying that so that I can be held accountable. Her name starts with a J. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but her name starts with a J. And I want to get her on. Do you know who it is?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a surprise for you too. But let us know who you want us to reach out to try to get on this podcast. And you can do that by sending us a Facebook message, letting us know on this Facebook live. You can let us know on Instagram. You can email us at smalltownpodcast@yahoo.com. Whatever way you want to make that happen, let's make that happen, people.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think people should comment and let us know what content creators they love.
Yeah,
I didn't talk about their title is inappropriate. That you listen to.
It's because you hate them so much. It's the I'm able to ignore words or hear past words.
I think I don't like the content of it though.
Probably.
It just doesn't
they just interview a lot of comedians. That's it.
You're not gonna say it, are you?
No, because you hate it so much.
Are you gonna bleep yourself?
No, I'm not even gonna say it. Because you hate it so much.
Well, I don't hate it that much.
No, now you're just saying that, so I'll say it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it.
Are you gonna go see them?
Yes.
What are their names? Their stage names?
Corinne Fisher and Christina Hutchinson.
Oh.
Thank you though for tuning into this episode. It's kind of a weird, awkward episode. We're at 47. It's pretty good.
Do you want to talk about Mixtape of Life?
No.
Is that the name of it?
Do you want to talk about it?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool content. My buddy Ryan, he has a podcast that he started a little bit ago. But I was looking at their Instagram, and he just they bought a house 2 years ago, and it had this like shop area, and they turned it into their podcast studio, which is pretty cool.
It is neat.
I would have turned it into a woodworking shop.
No, it is cool, and it's neat that we can support people from our hometown doing the thing that we love to do too. So what that whole podcast is about is these two dudes who sit down and think of a theme. They come up with a theme, and they pull from different movies and different genres based on that theme and play that music. Basically, is what their podcast is about. It's a pretty neat podcast, and the dudes are super cool, and they're local, and I think that's my favorite part is that it's Ryan and Kanan, and they're doing.
It used to be Ryan and Grant.
Right.
I don't know Grant.
But
He's
Ryan,
Ryan.
so
he's a buddy.
So Ryan and Kanan get together, and they come up with these mixtapes of life, and
we should get Kanan's wife on here.
We should, and they talk about it, and it's neat. So it is a cool podcast.
It's really cool. Like if you understand music, then you're in. It's like having a conversation with Ryan because he understands music on a different level than anybody else.
Yeah,
and it's cool because they have like guests on their show, which sometimes are his family, and if you're a Woodard, music, even if you don't care for it, it's what you're born with, so it's cool they have that perspective. It's cool because Ryan's my buddy.
Yeah.
It
is. It's neat. So let us know what you listen to and the YouTube channels that you subscribe to, all of those kind of things. And again, thank you for tuning in to Facebook Live. At one point we had 5 people watching.
It's because it's late.
But there's 2 people that have been really, really consistent. So shout out to those 2 people. I wonder who it was.
I don't know. I wasn't looking that much.
I know.
This is the part that we usually edit and throw it in the middle because it doesn't necessarily go here.
Yep. So, tune in next week. No, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. We'll be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another small town story. Thanks for hanging out.
A genuine thank you.
Yeah.
For our listeners.
Legit.
That's why we do it. Hopefully people listen.
We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. You're on Small Town Expectations.
Go like Threadbanger. Yeah. And then they cut. Do a smiley. Did it finish?
No!